F, my fake call letters. So, as promised, I didn't really promise, but I said we'd be back with the B's today on How's My Phone? So, here we go. We're going to go through the B's today. And, like I said, when the world ends and there's no more internet, we will just have, hopefully, some electricity. We can charge our electronic devices and have our music that way, right? So, alright, so I'd like to introduce my new device here. This helps me with starting to record my phone screen. So here we go. There we go. Let's get to getting. Alright, so as you can see today we are starting with the B's, and right off the bat, see B, see how I did that? We got the B-52s. So the B-52s have been a band that have been in my life for a while. Long while, since I was a child. I don't have everything by them. Like I said in the last video, I don't have everything by every artist. It's not my goal to do that. I know some record collectors, I think their goal is just to have every record that was ever recorded. Like there's enough time in our life to get familiar and friendly with all these albums. But okay, so the B-52s, let's get to getting here because we got a lot of in the B's here. So of course I got the first two albums, which are probably the most essential B-52 albums, but I also have the third and the fourth albums here. Now I don't have the EP on here that's mixed, sandwiched in between these releases. Cosmic Thing, I think, is probably their last really good album. I had that at one point. It's not one of my favorites, but with the debut and the second album, fantastic. Whammy, not as good as the first two, but it's still pretty classic. And Bouncing Out of the Satellites, even less classic, but still really good with some poppy, humorous songs on there. But the B-52s, what can I say that a lot of people don't already know? It's just good stuff here. You know, Kate Pearson and Cindy Wilson, great vocals. Fred Schneider, great, really funny guy, kind of Peter Sellersy here on the debut album there. Alright, let's keep moving here. Second band in B, I have Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga, Baba Yaga, Baba Yaga. Are they krautrock? Probably a little bit. Very experimental, very soundtracky. They got, whoops, here we got, I just got one album here, Collage. It's just heavily experimental, sprinkled with a little bit of world music-y sounds in there. 2 tracks for the whole album, but totally worth it. Really experimental stuff. 1974. Alright, back to my punk days, which, you know, you have punk days or you don't have punk days. I had punk days, but they go up until today. Again, not everything by Bad Brains, kind of narrowed down to the essentials, at least. So we have Rock for Light, of course, produced by Rick Ocasek. But then, then we got, Bad Brains stuff, titled, and Eye Against Eye, their SST release, which is really good. A little bit different than the first two. The first two are a little bit more hardcore. Eye Against Eye, just slower, a little bit slower, not so hardcore, but excellent album. Bad Brains, again, a band that really doesn't need a whole explanation to be fed to you, but love the Bad Brains. Moving on, Badfinger. Again, not everything by Badfinger, but narrowed down to the essentials. Now I do have the Ivies on here. We'll get to that when we get to the Eyes. But we do have, Magic Christian Music, Straight Up, No Dice, Self-Titled, and Ass. I think it goes Straight Up Ass. But yeah, Power Pop from the 70s, I think like Badfinger and Big Star were sort of like the power pop bands of the time, although Big Star not nearly as successful and well known as Badfinger, but yeah, really, really great albums. Pete Ham, fantastic songwriter. When we get to the P's, I think even when we get to the H's, my phone app has divided Pete Ham's records, but really good stuff there. But as Badfinger, these are all really good, some better than the others. No Dice is a really great record. Let's keep moving. We got a lot of B's to go through here. Plow through this mother. Banana Moon Band. Who the hell is the Banana Moon Band? David Allen, one of the founders of Soft Machine, and founder of Gong. This is his band, kind of sandwiched between his career in Soft Machine and Gong. I don't have everything. I don't know what happened here. But anyway, again, no album title here, so picture of Soft Machine, so that's appropriate. There he is on the right there with his hands. But this is really good stuff too. Really good 60s pop, I don't know what else to say about it because I got to keep moving here. But Banana Moon Band, it's a really good example of some of the music he was creating. The guy just had a real knack for writing really catchy little songs. And yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. If you're a Canterbury completist, this is, I think, an essential little piece of history for that scene. Okay, here I have the Bar Ks. Now this is an album by the Bar Ks. This is one of my various soundtracks that I have on my phone here from Mystery Train. Jim Jarmusch, of course, great filmmaker. Mystery Train, one of his greatest movies, and the Bar Ks are featured on it. So here it's just, Soulfinger is the song that they have here. Soulfinger also featured in Spies Like Us, right? About the same time. But yeah, it is a classic song, and Mystery Train is a great soundtrack. Like, I think films expose you to music that you wouldn't necessarily listen to just so. And so if you like the film, you kind of get attached to the music because it reminds you of the scenes from the film, and it works so well with the film. That's another example of that. As we go through the alphabet here, we'll see some of the other songs on Mystery Train. Baron Blood, another soundtrack from Les Baxter. This is music from Baron Blood. It's music from Black Sunday as well. Just great 60s hammerish horror. 60s horror music, 60s horror film music. We don't need a big explanation of that, but I'm glad I have it here. Bauhaus. Now a lot of Gothic music fans, record collectors will say, oh, you don't have any official releases by Bauhaus? Well, no, I don't. What can I say? But I like Peter Murphy. And I wasn't ever a big fan of Love and Rockets. They're all right, but as Bauhaus, they were great. And it's kind of a multi-disc collection, obviously, because here's disc 1. I don't know what happened to disc 2, but it doesn't matter. Bauhaus, great 80s Gothic, post-punk, Gothic, whatever. Bebop Deluxe. All right. Again, not all their albums. I think I have a few more somewhere on my hard drive, but on my phone right now I have Futurama and Sunburst Finish. Futurama is probably the album that I like the most, because that was probably my introduction to Bebop Deluxe, because of Jean Cocteau. What a song. But Bill Nilsson's a fantastic songwriter, singer. We'll also get to Bill Nilsson a little bit later in the Bees. But Bebop Deluxe, a lot of prog fans like him, 70s rock fans like him. He just kind of throws it all in there. And yeah, Sunburst Finish, also a really good record. And good artwork. They have good album artwork as well. Which, doesn't mean everything, but I think it's important. So here, you'll see we have Beach Boys and The Beach Boys. Same band. Just saying. So in my first file here, or folder, I have Holland, and of course Mount Vernon and Fairway, which is just, it's like if David Lynch had produced a radio show for Brian Wilson, which was included on my release of Holland that I got. Holland, great record, Ricky Fattar, and yeah, I mean, what can I say? Holland, fantastic record. Steamboat, strangely enough, is on here twice. It might be because it's my favorite song on the album. But Sail on Sailor, awesome. This isn't an official release of Smile, but it is a release of Smile. This just has kind of like the incomplete album, as close as it can be. And but good stuff. And of course, Pet Sounds. With Pet Sounds, yeah, I always thought this is like what 4AD would sound like in the 60s, for the record label 4AD. Especially You Still Believe in Me. It has it's like a blueprint for a lot of bands that ended up on 4AD or 4AD decades later. But I don't need to talk too much about Pet Sounds. I mean, please, Beach Boys. And here we have The Beach Boys. These are all the twofers. I got these on CD, of course, because I'm not such a vinyl nerd like so many people, so I'm not in the club. But 15 Big Ones, and the Beach Boys Love You, Friends 2020, Smiley Smile, of course, it gave me the cover, but it should be Smiley Smile and Wild Honey, Sunflower, Surf's Up. Yeah, what are my favorites here? I don't know, it's all great, and it's the Beach Boys. Okay, next band I don't really need to I'm not even going to mention their name, because I mean, please, I'm not a huge fan of these guys, but I have narrowed it down to some essentials that I really like She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, probably my favorite song here, off the suite on side 2, and of course, self-titled, a lot of probably filler. Savoy Truffle I like a lot. Let It Be Naked, I like. The interesting thing about Abbey Road and Let It Be, to me, Abbey Road, Paul's songs were better, and Let It Be, John's songs were better. I mean, Dig a Pony is so great. Across the Universe, overplayed as hell, but whatever. Long and Winding Road is Paul's. It's a long and winding turd, but whatever. Let it be. Yeah, snore. But I like this release of it. Revolver, of course, Taxman being a nice little rip-off of the Kinks, but still a great little record. Let's move on. Enough videos on YouTube about those guys. I mean, really, I'm falling asleep just thinking about it. So in the last video we had Astrud Gilberto, and I talked about her daughter Babel, and here I have Babel. I have her album, like she only has one. I don't even know. I haven't followed her. I did see her live, like I said in the last video, but and I mentioned when I saw her live, she did a version of No Return by the Kinks, completely unexpected to me. And then not so long after, there was a Kinks tribute album, of one of many. Where I Belong is a particularly good one, and here she's featured doing No Return. Wonderful, wonderful version of this song. And she has such a great voice, very similar to her mother's. Beck, of course. Yeah, I don't have Odelay. Never did. I did have Stereopathetic Soul Manure. I don't know what happened to it, but whatever. Here I have Mellow Gold, which I think is an excellent, funny, weird album. And then, yeah, I don't have Midnight Vultures. I thought it was good, but Mutations, I thought, it's funny, at the time that Mutations was released, it's like, it's not really the next album, but it is. It is, and it's really great. We Live Again being a standout tune. Yeah, Beck, whatever. All right. Bee Gees. All right. Now, if you had told me in high school that I'd be a Bee Gees fan, I would have laughed in your face. That was because, in America in the late 80s, not so much focus was put on the Bee Gees music before Saturday Night Fever. And so obviously no Saturday Night Fever here. I got the Bee Gees' first album, Cucumber Castle, Idea, Odessa, Trafalgar, whatever. I don't know. Odessa I particularly like. You'll Never See My Face Again is one of my favorite Bee Gees songs. I'd love to hear the Posies do a version of that. Although I don't know if they need to, because when you listen to You'll Never See My Face Again, it sounds just like the Posies. I think that song was a blueprint for the Posies. But I like the Posies. We'll get to the P's eventually. But Bee Gees, I don't need to say a whole lot about that. Okay, here we have Beath, which is actually Beethoven. It's the Moonlight Sonata. Again, heard it a million times, maybe not as much as the Fifth or the Ninth, the Glorious Ninth, but I like the Moonlight Sonata. Very melancholy classical night music. Very good stuff. Whatever. I think I don't know what these pictures are, because I know my CD was from the Gramophone release, Deutsche Grammophon. All right, Belt Buckle. Don't know, this artwork is of actual belt buckles, but this up here at the top, that's the artwork for the 7-inch. This is just their one and only EP. I mean, this was Eric Matthews, of course, from Cardinal, and then Bob Fay, and of course Lou Barlow from Sebadoh. Mary Hare being kind of the centerpiece here, where he talks about Skippy from Family Ties. Funny song, good song, great little 7-inch indie rock. Don't like that term either. Okay, moving along, Bernard Herrmann. I should have way more Bernard Herrmann on here. He did so many soundtracks. Psycho probably being the one I was introduced to, and then Taxi Driver, of course, one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. Bernard Herrmann also, he worked with Alfred Hitchcock, worked with Brian De Palma, and of course worked with Scorsese. Yeah, I don't need to say so much about that. Okay, Big Black. All right, Steve Albini, right? Got quite a bit here. Songs About Fucking was probably my intro to these guys. They do a version of Kraftwerk's, The Model on here, but the whole album, classic stuff. Really great, abrasive, kind of pre-industrial, loud, noisy. Doesn't get any better than that. Big Black. Big Business. Okay. A great, great band from the Northwest. Jared Warren, great vocalist. He's a great bass player, but his vocals are so strong. And Cody Willis is such an amazing drummer. Great drummer. And that's why they were invited to join the Melvins. We'll get to the Melvins and the M's. But here we have the essentials here for me. Here Come the Waterworks. Just each song comes at you. Boom, boom, boom. And then, you know, they were gone for a while, and then they came back unbeknownst to me with Battlefields Forever, which might even be better than Here Come the Waterworks. I don't know. But hell of an album. I mean, Here Come the Waterworks and Battlefields Forever. It's tough to say. I got the EP collection on here. And of course, I got Head for the Shallow. Also a great album, but yeah. Moving along. Big Star, okay, the other power pop band, the American power pop band. We had Badfinger, the British, English power pop band of the 70s. Big Star, the American, less well known. Yeah, Vinyl Nerds. I know I don't have #1 record in Radio City separately on here because whatever. This came out on Rykodisc in the 90s. Or no, not Rykodisc. No, that was later. That was third. So not Rykodisc released a #1 record in Radio City together as a twofer, and so that's what I had on CD, and so both records are here. I don't need to talk so much about these. Third is also great, bizarre little record. I don't know which one's the best. I probably tend to lean towards #1 record because Chris Bell. But regardless, all highly recommended. Bill Anderson. Technically, this is Daniel Johnston. Bill Anderson, a guitarist from Austin, worked with Daniel Johnston. He's credited to 4 songs on Continued Story. So, but yeah, if you like Daniel Johnston, you already have stuff. So, at any rate. Yeah, in my comedy album video or stand-up album video, I talked a lot about Bill Hicks. Again, I don't have everything here, but some of my favorites. Dark Poet being my absolute favorite. Relentless, Flying Saucer, Volume 1, Arizona Bay, the original Arizona Bay with the music. They now have a extended Arizona Bay with a little bit more stand-up material and no music, which a lot of people, I guess, were clamoring for. Doesn't matter to me. I was introduced to the one with the music by Bill Hicks. I've heard it so much, it's just kind of ingrained in me. I'm used to it, so I don't mind it. Shock and Awe, of course, being the same release, the re-release as Oxford. Bill Hicks, don't need to say so much about him. Okay, so Bebop Deluxe singer here, Bill Nelson. This is Bill Nelson's Red Noise. A little bit different than Bebop Deluxe, a little bit more aggressive. But great album. And this is a particularly great release because it goes on forever. As you can see here, as the album, live songs, BBC, in concert, Peel sessions, and demos. This is the one to have. This is a great record. Bill Nelson. Other solo albums that are also great. Okay, Biz Markie. I love the artwork here. There is an album title here, but my Power Amp app gave me a picture of Jill Stein and a nice picture of some buds. But at any rate, this is the only Biz Markie I have. Sorry to disappoint you. I thought Biz Markie was a humorous hip-hop artist, you know. May he rest in power. But here he does a cover of the Energy Blues from Schoolhouse Rocks on the Schoolhouse Rocks album. So the Schoolhouse Rocks various artists album I have on here, you'll see the various artists that I have on here. I didn't keep all the songs on my phone because some of them, whatever, I don't like some of the bands, but I had to have the Biz Markie one because that one's great. Okay, Björk. A lot of people say Bjork. It's Björk because that's an O with umlaut, you know. She comes from Iceland. They have umlaut there, right? But at any rate, again, I don't have everything here, but I've narrowed it down to my favorites. Homogenic is great because it has All Is Full of Love and Yoga, with a couple of different mixes, but very good, excellent record. And then a little bit of a later album, Medulla. I don't know this album quite as well. I got it just because Robert Wyatt does some vocals, because Björk, at this point, she wanted a little bit more history music cred, I guess, so she was able to snatch Robert Wyatt up and get him to do some vocals on a song. So that's why I have that. Black Flag. So now we're beginning the black section of the B section on my phone here. So Black Flag, of course. Don't need to really introduce these guys. Starting with Nervous Breakdown, their very first release. Keith Morris was the vocalist, and I mean, Nervous Breakdown with Keith Morris is probably one of the greatest Black Flag songs. But I don't have Damaged on here, although I have Damaged. I think that's a little bit overrated. I mean, it's a good album, you know. My War, I think, is when they really, you know, they'd been touring for a long time since Damaged, and they sort of wanted to give punk a little new twist, and that's what they did here with My War. The first side is a little bit more like Damaged. The second side is a little bit more like Black Sabbath. But might be the greatest Black Flag album. Tough to say. I had Family Man somewhere too, although I know that one's not that well liked. Process of Weeding Out is a great EP, you know. Screw the Law being a great short little instrumental song. But I like this album. I like it a lot. And in my head, the last Black Flag album. I mean, not really. But for all intents and purposes, yes, it is. But it's also great. Loose Nut is, I think, preferred, but I like in my head a little bit more. Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. Yeah. What can I say? Take Them On Your Own is a great album. Howl is a little bit of a different direction. Baby 81 kind of like mixes that original sound and that new direction a little bit. Yeah, just great, groovy rock. Black Sabbath, I don't need to talk so much about Black Sabbath. Here I can definitively say I have it narrowed down to the absolute essentials. More I don't need. You know, of course I have all the Ozzy albums here. And yes, I like Technical Ecstasy, and I like Never Say Die. I don't know what the problem people have with that record, but or those records, but they're great. They're just, you know, that's the thing with metal music. You know, metal bands, you know, well into the 80s too. They evolved into different things, and by the time they reached Technical Ecstasy, they just you know, they had to do something different. Never Say Die as well. And I like it. You know, just because it doesn't sound like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, or it doesn't sound like Volume 4, it doesn't matter. I like what they did. I know a lot of people think that, oh, they had no idea what they were doing. They're drugged out, drunk, whatever, coked up. I don't care, whatever. I like the results. And of course, I got the Dio albums. I prefer Mob Rules. I think it's a little bit, it's a tighter album. Heavier too, I think. And then the one I listened to the least in this bunch, Born Again, when Ian Gillan on vocals, when Ian Gillan joined the band. Interesting production, very muddy, of course, but heavy. A good album. More Black Sabbath I do not need. It's like enough already. Okay, here we have Les Baxter again. We had Baron Blood, now we have Black Sunday. So I talked about that already. Black Tambourine. Yeah, a band out of DC. Didn't exist very long. This says complete recordings. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it's good, you know. It's a late 80s kind of pre-Britpop, very influenced by 60s sound, but again, they're from DC, so interesting. I like the band name, Black Tambourine. But yeah, it is good stuff. Complete Recordings is just a nice little collection. Another band from Germany here, not Krautrock again. They're kind of 70s funky rock, but really good, really great stuff. Good song titles too. Skylab, Sitting by a Pillow, Funky Nice. Why not? All right, so Black Wednesday. The thing that sticks out in my mind beyond the music here is that, yeah, 3 out of 4 guys in this band are named Wolfgang. Yeah. And 2 of them have the last name Schultz. But I don't think either of them are related to Olaf Scholz. Doesn't matter. Okay, moving along. Blonde Redhead. With Blonde Redhead, I only have one album here, Misery is a Butterfly, which is good. I had somewhere, and maybe I still do on my hard drive. I bought it on CD in an expression of the inexpressible, which I like a little bit better than this one. They changed their sound a little bit on this album. It's still good. Don't listen to it that often. But Blondie, gotta have Blondie. I don't have their last album. Narrowed down to the essential kind of thing here. It's tough to say what my favorite album is, because Angels on the Balcony on Auto-American is probably my favorite Blondie song, but I like all these albums. They're all very good. The first album really expresses their kind of their lean towards 50s style music, which is also good. Yeah, whatever. Blondie, what can I say? Blue Cheer. Now I can talk a little bit about Blue Cheer because the first two albums, Vincebus Interruptus, or Interruptum, sorry, Vincebus Interruptum, yeah, Latin something, and Outside Inside, heavy, great album, power trio. What more can be said? These guys are great. More of the blueprint for metal music. And then I have a couple of their other releases, which they pulled the brakes completely on distortion and heavy playing, with New Improved and the self-titled. They're interesting albums. I can't recommend them. I have them on here because I got to constantly remind myself that they didn't continue the greatness of these first two albums. But the other two albums, okay, kind of typical bluesy rock. Not that interesting, but the first two albums, wonderful. Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah, what can I say about Blue Oyster Cult? The first three records, gotta have them, are what people refer to as the black and white era. Yeah, it's almost all I really need by them, but I went further because I got Agents of Fortune, which is still pretty good. Spectres is also good. Fire of Unknown Origin, good, although I don't really listen to all those albums that much. Some Enchanted Evening is interesting. I've never liked Are You Ready to Rock? Another cringy title. I was like, yeah. I mean, if it was done with a little bit tongue-in-cheek, maybe, but at that time, I don't think it was. If somebody were to do that song today, all right, we're going to play a song. It's called Are You Ready to Rock? Are you ready to rock? Yeah, fuck off. All right. But they do a great version to kick out the jams on here. MC5, we'll get to them in the M's. But the first three albums, I don't know which one's the best. Secret Treaties tends to be a favorite. It is an awesome album, but I love the first album. I love Tyranny and Mutation too. The Red and the Black. You know, the Minutemen. When we get to the M's, we get to the Minutemen. But the Minutemen legendarily did that song quite often live. But yeah, love Blue Oyster Cult. Not a lot of American rock bands from the 70s get a lot of attention the way, because the Brits really took over. But Blue Oyster Cult stayed true. Blur, back to England here. Yeah, I don't have the first album. I don't think I need it. I think Modern Life is Rubbish might be their best, because it's just a great album, a great leap. You know, the second album, Sweet Spot, that's another one that I talked about in the first video. Yeah, The Great Escape, it's great. Park Life, of course, great. Blur, self-titled, is really great. Song number 2, I don't need to hear ever again. And then, of course, when Graham Coxon left, you know, they were left to do another album without him, although he is on it a little bit. Think Tank is better than most people would say. It is a little bit of a different album, not so typical, not so Kinksy the way some of the other stuff is, but I do like the album. I think Ambulance is a hell of a song. All right, moving on. Bob Doro and Friends. So this comes from my Schoolhouse Rocks album. This, of course, has the Schoolhouse Rocky original theme. Only 14 seconds long. But that's Bob Doro for you. Bob Mould. Yeah, what can I say about Bob Mould? Again, not everything here. Is Blue Hearts his most recent album? See, I'm not so up to date. It is a great album. My favorite is probably Workbook, although Black Sheets of Rain is great. Last Dog and Pony Show and the Self-Titled are also just great albums. What I like about Bob Mould is I remember reading a long time ago, maybe it's about 20 years ago, he said that at one point he was just going to stop playing live or stop doing electric shows because he's like, it's just goofy for a 50-year-old man or older to be on the stage trying to rock out. And look at him now. Look at him now. He's still going strong. Amps plugged in, distortion, Jason Narducci on bass. You know, what can I say? Bob Mould, Husker Du, legendary, living legend. Okay, back to Mystery Train, Bobby Blue Bland. So here it's get your money where you spend your... Yeah, well, you know, I'm not a rock expert. I love this soundtrack, love the movie. Can't say I know it like the back of my hand. Let's keep going here. One of my favorite guitarists of all time, Bola Sete from Brazil. Here I have a couple albums he did with Vince Guaraldi. We'll get to Vince and the V's. But from all sides, Vince and Bola, great. And of course, an essential must-have is at the Monterey Jazz Festival. Wonderful, wonderful record. So, more Bola Sete, Vince Guaraldi. That's from a compilation with Paul Winter. That's a radio program, maybe. I'm not sure. The Bola Sete Trios, Tour de Force. Yeah, what can I say? This is a great collection. This is a must-have. Asturias. A bit of classical guitar there. Wonderful. Yeah, Bola Sete. Awesome guitarist. Okay, Bongwater. Here we have Ann Magnuson, or Magnuson, however you want to say it. And Kramer of Shimmy Disc fame. And we'll get to Kramer, too. He did some albums with some people. But Bongwater is their band with Ann Magnuson on vocals. I had a cassette a long, long time ago. I don't even remember which one it was. But then I got reconnected with them again. I said, yeah, I got to get some Bongwater. So I got The Power of Pussy. Why not? It's a great album. Great radio. That's a great song. Boo Radley's. So here, kind of the Britpop shoegaze era of the late 80s. Going into the 90s. I have a ton of EPs by these guys, but on my phone, I just have some of the essentials. I don't have their newest album, which doesn't feature Martin Carr, so it's kind of weird. It's a good album, but you notice Martin Carr not being there. But, you know, you start off with Ichabod and I, which I assume is a sentence where the next word is a verb. But at any rate, that's a brutal, loud album. Great. Everything's Alright Forever is also loud. Learning to Walk, compilation of the early EPs, very loud. And then Giant Steps, kind of their revolutionary album, where they still have the loud, but they're doing all this studio trickery and psychedelic stuff. And then they go completely overboard with the psych pop, really poppy, upbeat Wake Up, which I still like a lot. And then, somewhere in there they were featured on the So I Married an Axe Murderer soundtrack. They do a great version of There She Goes. The original is great by the Laws, but I like the Boo Radley version. It just gives it a little extra mustard. I have King Size on here. When I first heard King Size, I thought, Boo Radleys are over. But there's still some great songs on here, you know, no doubt about it. I mean, I can't complain too much from that. High as Monkeys is a good song. It's a long song. All right, but Boo Radley's awesome band. Boston Spaceships, another of the many Robert Pollard projects on my phone here. Yeah, I'm missing the EP here, but I got all the major releases here. Which one's the best? I don't know. He does, what I liked about this Boston Spaceships is he really, aside from like just the great hooky short songs, he also started doing some of the proggy multi-piece songs on several of these albums. And yeah, it's some of his best stuff, no doubt about it. Boston Spaceships. Brainiac, another Dayton band. Yeah, what can I say? These are just all great albums. I mean, the 3 albums and 2 EPs. International, obviously, is a really good one, produced by Kim Deal. And then their last release, Electroshock for President, before Timmy Taylor tragically died. But, yeah, great, noisy. It's like Devo on uppers. Brain Ticket. Yeah, Brain Ticket. Krautrock, considered krautrock, although this singer, oh man, what's his name? Vanderhoofen something. Oh God. See, when I try to do these lightning rounds, I get all worked up and I forget names. But he is actually from, isn't he from Belgium? But he speaks Dutch, that much I know. I don't have Cottonwood Hill. Cottonwood Hill is an essential release, yeah, but I remember last time I listened to it, I was just like, no. I was just like, I can't. It's not so mind-melding. It's a lot of repetition of the same guitar riff. But the second album, Psychonaut. Second album, Sweet Spot. Celestial Ocean, really great, kind of getting into more kind of gong-ish kind of music. And then he got a little bit more into electronics, so definitely a little bit more krautrocky with Adventure and Voyage. But Brain Ticket, great band name, great band. Brave New World. Now the thing about Brave New World is these guys are a German band, probably a little bit in the krautrock vein. But what is so great about this album, their one and only release, Impressions on Reading Aldous Huxley, who wrote Brave New World. I don't know, it sounds unlike anything else. I mean, it definitely has some of that 70s proggy, krautrocky feel to it, but it also sounds unlike anything, and parts of it kind of sound ahead of their time. It's a very unusual record, and I like it a lot, and I totally recommend it. Okay, Breeders. We had the Amps in the last video. I got all their major releases here and a couple of their EPs. The one EP, with Mark Lanigan singing on it. Yeah, and they do a GBV cover on this and a Sebadoh cover on this. Breeders, I don't need to say so much about them because it's the Breeders. Great band. Pod is maybe my favorite. The Last Splash is Title TK. That could even be my favorite too. Title TK I thought was really, really great. All Nerve, the last album is really good. They do a nice Amandoul cover. Archangel's Thunderbird, which sounds great with Jimmy Mack's drums. Okay, Brian Eno. Yeah, narrowed down to the essentials. Don't have a lot of his, atmospheric, except for discrete music I have, which is okay. I don't listen to it as much as this other stuff here. Another Green World is mind-blowing. Music for films, I don't know if any of this was ever used in films, probably. I would, if I had the money to get the rights to it. But, oh yeah, okay, yeah, some of his ambient one I have here, music for airports, of course, which is good. I mean, I like his ambient music. I call it atmospheric, whatever, you know what I mean. And there are some good stuff, but it's so much to go through. But I like, the BBC sessions, the stuff he did with the Winkies, all that stuff is great. And we'll get to the Winkies when we get to the W's. Okay, Brian Eno, more Brian Eno, John Hassel, the late, great John Hassel did a wonderful album here. Experimental, ambient, one of the best ones, I think. Possible Musics, I like that. Brian Jonestown Massacre, again, another band that has tons of stuff out. I don't know, I don't differentiate one from the other. I just put this one on my phone. I do have some more of their stuff. I don't listen to them a lot. They're good. They're good. It's mostly kind of background for me. But whenever I want to listen to music, I always put on something I really, really like, which is a lot of stuff on here. And I do like some of the stuff on there, but Brian Jonestown Massacre is pretty good. You might like him more than me. More than I. All right. Brosel Machine. Yeah, this is German folk rock. Again, I wouldn't consider it krautrock. It's folk rock from the 70s. Good, nice vocals, good melodies, interesting album artwork. Okay, Buffalo Tom, going back to Boston in the 90s, late 80s, 90s. Again, narrowed down to the essentials. The first 3 albums are the best. I mean, Big Red Letter Day is also still really good. I had that at one point. But when it comes down to it, it's those first 3 that I really, really like. A lot of people say that the first album is too much like Dinosaur Jr. Well, yeah, Jay Mascis produced it, and he even plays guitar on one of the songs. I don't care. I don't think it sounds that much like Dinosaur because the vocals are a lot different than Jay Mascis' vocals. But Bird Brain, I think, might have been the first one I bought by them. And then, of course, their SSST debut. And then Bird Brain, their major label debut, Beggar's Banquet, and Let Me Come Over, great. And they do a great Schoolhouse Rock song, Lolly, 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 get your adverbs here. The title is almost like all the lyrics. All right, anyway, Bert Alcantara. Thing about Bert, don't know a lot about Bert. This is all electronic music, but totally awesome. It's called Zygote. People don't know, is it Zygote the band? Is it the name of the album? Is it whatever? I don't know. Bert Alcantara is the composer. All electronic, all synths, all good. Just really unusual. I don't even know how I came across it, but there it is. Butthole Surfers. Again, another band that doesn't need an introduction. Got a lot of stuff, not everything, but got the early stuff, the early stuff. Got After the Astronaut and Weird Revolution, which are almost the same, a little bit different. Favorite Butthole Surfers album? I don't know. Look, to say it's Locust Abortion Technician sounds kind of tired because everybody says that. It's a tough one because that is a fucking phenomenal album. The Double Live is really, really great example of their shows at that time in the late 80s. Hairway to Steven, amazing. PO'd, I think, is awesome. Independent Worm Saloon, awesome. Yeah, I don't have Electric Larryland for some reason. It must be somewhere on my hard drive. It's also a good album, but not as good as like Widower Maker, one of the greatest EPs of all time. Okay, the Byrds. The Byrds. What can I say? Again, not everything by the Byrds. Have it narrowed down to my essential Byrds. Of course, what's interesting about Younger Than Yesterday, I have all these with extra tracks on here, and Lady Friend, which is not on any of these releases officially, extra tune here. Lady Friend is like one of the greatest Byrds songs of all time. Sweetheart of the Radio, of course, really. Graham Parsons was there, great stuff. Dr. Bird's Mr. Hyde. They're more country tinged era, but not quite so as country as like the last couple Mach 1, whatever you want to say, Byrds time, or even the reunion here with the original members. Not a great album, although Full Circle is great. A couple other good songs on here. I mean, Sweet Mary is also a really good song. But really, the version of 8 Miles High on the Untitled is worth the price of admission there. I mean, it's 2 albums, great collection of music. Maybe their most amazing lineup, you know, with Skip Batten on bass, you know, what can I say? Gene Parsons on drums, you know, Clarence White on guitar. I mean, yeah, you can't beat the original lineup with Gene Clark, Michael Clark, and Chris Hillman. I mean, that's a tough one, but whatever. Let's move on. Bela Bartok, Last of the Bees. Of course, I have the soundtrack to The Shining. Bela Bartok did a lot of great classical music from Romania, of course. I hesitate to call it modern classical music, but it's after the classical music period, or 20th century classical music, which I think is a lot more interesting than the time of Beethoven and Bach, even though I love that stuff, and Chopin, of course. But once you get into the 1900s, you know, you got Bela Bartok, you have Sergei Prokofiev. I mean, these guys are just amazing. But at any rate, ladies and gents, I'm going to end it there. That was B. Oh, here, do we want to take a quick look at C? Not yet, but it's off to an interesting start. But we'll get there. So, fans of my channel, however few or many you may be, thank you for sticking it in this long, and we will see you in the next video.
Boom.